Hello and welcome. My name is Jay Douglas and I'm the founder of How to Get Online, an educational resource for small business owners and entrepreneurs looking to get online. In this video series, I'm going to show you how to make your own website from scratch. This website will be a fully functioning website representative of what a real small business owner or entrepreneur might need. I'll guide you through the entire process and show you the most practical, affordable, and direct approach to build and maintain your own website without any programming. This guide is meant for real small business owners and entrepreneurs who have no experience in web design, yet are looking to make their own professional website and achieve a successful online presence for their business. For example, meet Sarah. Sarah is a small business owner who runs a local bakery business. She's been successful so far getting customers to visit her bakery through word of mouth, but now she wants to expand to a larger number of customers in the area. In order to do this, she's going to need a website, but she doesn't have the budget to hire a professional web designer. So she decided that she wants to make her own website, although there's just one problem. She's not quite sure how to do that. Sarah's heard it's pretty easy to make a website, but she's still confused on where to start or what service to even use. She's seen a lot of commercials for making a website advertised by many different companies, and even some online tutorials about making a website with WordPress. Now, Sarah may be a fictional cartoon character running a made-up business, but her scenario is very real. And in this video series, I'm going to use Sarah as an example to guide you through the entire process and cover everything you need to know about making your own website. I want to disclose that making a website, a good website, is a challenging task. It's going to take some time. It's true that anyone can make their own website nowadays, but there's still a lot of work and a lot of planning that goes into the whole process. You can't just make your entire website all in one day. You should realistically expect to dedicate a couple hours a day for a week or more while applying what you've learned from this guide. To make things easier, I've structured this entire guide into 5 main steps, which you can watch, pause, and follow along with. I'd recommend that you watch all 5 steps first before you even begin to follow along so that you can get a better understanding of what you'll be doing throughout this whole video series. Then, after you've finished watching all 5 steps, return back to step 1 and rewatch. This time, follow along and do the steps. As you can see, we have a lot of material to cover, so let's get started. The planning stage is a very important step. Think of it as the foundation for your website. Before you can start building, you need to plan on what you'll be building. The planning stage involves determining the purpose of your website and what functionality and features your website will need to accomplish that purpose. Creating a site outline to help you construct the basic layout of all the pages your website will have, analyzing your competitors and their existing websites to discover what works and what doesn't, adjusting and tweaking the site outline based off of the new information you found from your competitor analysis, brainstorming and writing basic content for each of those pages, and lastly, choosing a domain name for the address of your website. Watch along as I show Sarah how to accomplish the planning stage for her needs, and then you can apply this to your own real-world business. When you start out, the very first thing you need to do is determine the purpose of your website. For example, Sarah thinks she knows why she needs a website. She needs one to give her bakery business exposure and to bring in more customers. That's the ultimate purpose for her. Of course, that's the fundamental purpose for every business, to gain exposure and bring in customers. While that is the end game, that's not really the main purpose Sarah's website should have. The main purpose is to inform people about her bakery and provide them with adequate information to help them decide on whether or not her bakery is the right choice for them. Sarah's website must be beneficial for her customers first, before it can be beneficial for her. With that mentality in mind, we can start to outline all the pages her website will need in order to accomplish that purpose. We can also start thinking about the functionality and features each page will need as well. I'm going to show you how to create a site outline. I personally find it easier to create one by simply drawing it out on a piece of paper. So let's get started. First of all, every website needs a homepage, which is basically an introductory page or landing page that people will first see when they visit the website. The homepage should serve as an entrance point, displaying pertinent information and facilitating navigation to other pages across the website. For Sarah, her homepage might have content highlighting important information about her bakery, such as location details, contact info, special deals, new menu items, pictures, and other basic info. After the homepage, we'll need to continue our outline by adding several more main level pages. For example, we'll add a menu page, an about page, and a contact page, which all seem pretty standard for a bakery website. The menu page will list all the delicious snacks and goodies her bakery has to offer. The About page will be a simple informational page with a bio and history of Sarah and her bakery business. The Contact page will list the bakery's contact information, such as a Google map of the bakery's address and a contact form for email. Next, we'll add an Item page under the Menu page. The Item page will list a single item from her menu so that her customers can learn more about the item in detail. The page might have a detailed description along with various photos of the item. Furthermore, it might even have an Add to Cart button so that customers can order that item online if they desire. Since the Item page is directly related to the Menu page, we'll add it below the menu on our site outline. It is good practice to structure our outline this way by grouping similar pages together, as it creates a logical and efficient layout. When Sarah's website is complete, the URL structure of the Item page might look something like www.sarahsbakery.com/menu/individual item page. Now, in theory, there would be many item pages to add, essentially as many items as Sarah's Bakery has to offer. In this case, Sarah might even have to restructure the outline by adding category pages to further organize the hierarchy of her website. Then the URL of a particular item page might look something like this: www.sarahsbakery.com/menu/category/individual item page. To help clarify this, a realistic URL example might be named like this: www.sarahsbakery.com/menu/cakes/raspberry chocolate delight cake. It's important to understand how to organize the pages of your website and properly structure them when you create your site outline. As you can see, Sarah's site outline is already starting to give us a clearer picture of what her website will entail. Now, at this point, there are probably many more pages Sarah would want to add to her outline. However, just randomly thinking of pages off the top of her head might be a little difficult. The next part is to analyze Sarah's competitors and see what they have on their websites. This part is fairly straightforward. Just find other competing businesses that are successful and take a look at their already existing websites. Look over their website and see what it offers. Look for good ideas that you may want to incorporate on your own website. Now, I'm not saying to just copy everything from your competitors. I'm saying to use your competitors as inspiration to create your own unique website. After carefully analyzing her competitors' websites, Sarah has found some good new ideas and has decided to add more pages to her site outline. When creating your own site outline, remember to carefully consider the purpose of your website and what your website will need to fulfill that purpose. You should include however many pages it takes to provide all the information your site's visitors will need. For the sake of keeping this tutorial short, I'll end our outline here. Just understand the concept of organizing your web pages into a hierarchy to make your website efficient and well structured. And also, understand that you should spend some time determining what pages your website will entail. Continuing on with the planning stage, the next part is to brainstorm the basic content that will go onto each page of your website's outline. Grab another piece of paper and choose a page on your site outline that you want to brainstorm. Then start writing down a rough draft of what you want to put on that page. You can also make notes to include things besides text like important images, videos, or anything else that you want to add. Your written content does not have to be perfect at this point, as you can rewrite it and revise it later on at any time. For now, just write a rough draft of what you want to put on each page. Brainstorming and writing out each of your page's content will help to ensure that you're not missing anything on your site's outline. The last part of the planning stage is to determine a domain name for your website. A domain name is your website's address on the web, so you need to choose a good one. It's really important for your website and business as it adds a professional touch, improves brand recognition, and makes it easier for visitors to find and remember you. Here are some tips for choosing a great domain name. When you first begin your domain name search, it helps to have a small set of phrases or keywords in mind that best describe the domain name you're seeking. Think of several descriptive keywords as a starting point to brainstorm alternative ideas. For example, if sarahs.com is already taken, consider sarahsbakery.com or sarahsbakeryandcafe.com. However, try to avoid domain names like sarahsbakery2.com or bestbakeryinboston.com, as that can appear spammy and unprofessional. When choosing a domain name, put your business name somewhere in there as part of it for brand recognition. Remember that your visitors may arrive at your website by typing in your address directly into their browser bar. Aim for 20 characters or less to maximize your type-in traffic. Make sure your domain name is easy to remember and spell. Adding numbers and non-alphabet characters to your domain name looks unprofessional and can also cause confusion, likely to result in loss of traffic to your site. So it's best to avoid these if possible. .com is the most popular top-level domain, or TLD, that most consumers are familiar with. However, it's okay to choose a different TLD other than .com. Because there are so many different websites online these days, .com addresses are becoming scarcer and harder to acquire. It is now completely acceptable to choose one of the many new TLDs that are available. For Sarah, the domain name sarahsbakery.com would be a great choice. However, if it's already taken, she could go with sarahsbakery.eat or sarahsbakery.cafe or even sarahsbakery.restaurant. Be sure to check that your potential domain name isn't trademarked, copyrighted, or being used by another business. It's also a good idea to check the history of your desired domain name. It may have previously been used by someone who went out of business. Now that we have a clearer picture of our site, it's almost time to start building it. But first, we'll need to find the right platform and tools to do this. There are many different ways to go about building a website. Traditionally, you would build a website from scratch by writing HTML and CSS code along with some JavaScript or other scripting language, depending upon the complexity of your website. Unfortunately, this would mean that you would need to learn all these different languages, which is highly impractical for the average small business owner who doesn't have that much time. Because of this, web developers and designers started to invent new platforms that required less technical know-how. Today, there are numerous such platforms available. For example, you could use a CMS technology like WordPress. WordPress is a great choice that gives you powerful functionality and features. Many professional websites on the internet today use WordPress, and I would highly recommend it myself. However, WordPress is still a complicated platform to learn, and for someone who has never built a website before, it can be quite challenging and frustrating. It can also end up being more expensive when you need to hire a professional WordPress developer to help you create a custom design or fix any errors that you may have unintentionally created on your website. For the average small business owner, the best option is to use a website builder. Website builders are by far the easiest way for beginners and require very little technical know-how. It's also very affordable, and you can often make your own website for under $15 a month. Compare that to hundreds, if not thousands of dollars you could easily spend if you were to hire a professional web designer. Furthermore, many modern website builders allow their templates to be highly customized so that you can create a unique looking website without your customers even realizing that it was made from a template. And you can easily do this without any programming. Simply drag and drop the content around to arrange a new design. In this video series, I'm going to use a website builder to show you how to make a website. I'm using a website builder because it's the most practical, affordable, and all-around easiest way for a beginner. Getting back to our fictional example with Sarah and her bakery business, I'm going to show Sarah what website builder to use and how to properly set it up. First, we need to pick a website builder that we're going to use. There are a wide variety of website builders out there to choose from, each with their own pros and cons. In this video series, I'm going to use Wix. The Wix website builder is one of the easiest and most popular choices available. It has pretty much everything a small business owner needs to make their own website. So for right now, it's a perfect match for Sarah and her bakery business. Note, although using Wix yourself would be easier to follow along with in this video series, note that it is not required. Feel free to use any website builder you want, as you should be able to apply the principles that you'll learn from this guide to almost any other website builder out there. So let's get started. As you can see here, I'm going to visit www.wix.com and sign up for a free account. Next, you'll need to set things up by choosing a template. A template will serve as the basic design for your website. For Sarah, she's going to browse templates under the appropriate category, restaurants, and then cafe and bakery. Most website builders should have templates designed for a variety of different business types. Note, all the templates you saw a moment ago were designed by Wix, meant for businesses who operate within that specific category. Most website builders try to design templates that are already set to go. That means that these templates were designed so that you can just replace pictures and text with your own and change basic coloring schemes to match your branding. Of course, no template is perfect, and you can typically customize these templates further. It really depends on your creative ability and how much time you want to dedicate towards designing your own website. For some small business owners, they may prefer to simply choose a template and just stick with it. For others, they may prefer a more custom design and spend some extra time customizing the template. This really depends upon you and how well the existing templates already match what your website needs. I also want to point out that the customizability of your template does depend on your website builder as well. Some website builders give you greater control over the design of your template, where others have less control. One of the reasons why I chose Wix was because they give you a high level of control over the design. Getting back to our own example, most website builders should allow you to preview each template. In Wix, you can hover over a template and click View to get a better look at the template. Once you find a template that you like, click Edit to use this template. Then click Save to confirm your choice. Most website builders will usually ask you to choose a name and/or a temporary URL for your website when you click Save for the first time. Just type in a short descriptive name for your website. Don't worry if it doesn't sound professional. This is just a temporary name and address that the website builder will use. The address you have chosen here will not be visible until you click Publish. Since the site is not ready yet, click Done without publishing your site. You should only publish when your site is finished and ready to be viewed by your visitors. Also, when you do publish, you'll want to avoid the free URL address that website builders give you. This address is completely unprofessional and something that you should not use for your business. Remember, you'll want to use your own professional domain name that you decided on in the planning stage back in step 1. Unfortunately, most website builders require a premium plan to do this, and you will need to upgrade. So let's get this task out of the way. Scroll to the top menu and hover over Upgrade, and then click on Compare Plans. As with any website builder, you will need to choose a paid plan to unlock all the features a professional website will have. There's no way around this, and sticking with the free plan will only give your business a cheap, unprofessional appearance. Carefully look over the plans your website builder offers and choose one that matches your needs. Since Sarah is planning to sell some bakery goods on her website, she's going to choose the e-commerce plan. Select the plan that you need and complete the checkout process. Now that we have this done, it's time for the next step, which is a step we've all been waiting for: building your website. Log back into your website builder's main dashboard. In our case, we'll log back into Wix. You should see the new website you saved in the previous video. Remember, if you're using a different website builder, your screen will differ, but the idea is the same. Click something like Edit Site to start. We are now within the website builder's editor. As you can probably guess, this is where we design, build, and edit our website. Since any good website builder comes with documentation on how to use it, there's really no point for me to cover this. Instead, I'll cover the best practices for building a website and guide you through the entire process so that you can use your own website builder to properly build your own website. But in order to do this, I need you to pause this video and read your website builder's documentation. Now that you're familiar with the editor, I want to discuss the basic structural elements or sections of a web page. It's important to understand how almost every web page on a website is structured by these common elements. You'll need this understanding to build your own web pages. Let's take a look at a single web page from 5 different websites. You'll see vastly differing content, functionality, and design, but they will all have these common elements: a header, a navigation menu, a main content column, one or more sidebars, and a footer. There are very few sites that don't at least loosely follow these basic structural elements of a web page. You'll need to understand this when building your own website, not only because it's good practice, but because virtually every template your website builder offers will utilize this structure. Also, the header, navigation menu, and footer typically remain the same, meaning that if you edit or make a change on any one of these elements, that change will reflect across every page of your website, not just the single page you are currently on. You can see this when we navigate to different pages across the website. Only the main content column and sidebars typically change. Note: most website builders keep the navigation menu within the header and thus collectively refer to both as the header. Now that you understand the basic structure of a page, let's discuss the basic structure of content on a page. Content is ultimately the most important aspect of any website, and structuring your content semantically on a web page is just good practice. Doing so will also provide many benefits for your website down the road, such as ranking well on search engines, which we'll cover later on in this video series. It is important to learn how the various headings, H1, H2, H3, and so on, should be ordered. Your page's content should start with an H1 heading because the H1 heading is your top level or main heading. It's followed by H2 headings, and then the H2s are followed by the less important H3s, and so on. Typically, there's only one H1 heading on a single page, but there may be multiple lower degree headings such as H2s and H3s. Also, another common mistake that's easy for a beginner to make is to style text to give the visual appearance of headings. It's tempting to simply change the text formatting by increasing font size or making it bold or whatever. However, this is not a heading and is incorrect. Use actual heading tags, the H1 through H6 tags, for all content headings. Now that you understand the importance of structuring both your page and its content, let's talk about changing the design of your website's template. This is the physical appearance of your website, which, as you may suspect, is also very important. As I mentioned in the previous step, website builders by nature are meant to offer pre-designed templates that are effective and ready to go. You pick a template that matches your style, and then you make some quick edits by swapping out text and images, and you're basically done. However, you are by no means limited to the template you have selected. Here in Wix, I can fully customize the template or even delete it and redesign it from scratch. As I mentioned earlier, the design of your website depends on your creativity and the dedication you're willing to put into it. Although most modern website builders today do come with some nicely pre-designed templates, there are a few important modifications to make regardless of what template you choose. When you pick a template for your own website, at the bare minimum, you'll want to make the following modifications. The first is color. Using the right colors on your website is not only important for the design, but for your business branding and product marketing as well. If your business already has an existing color scheme, then you'll want to use those colors on your website. If you don't, then now is the time to determine a good new color scheme. Note, color psychology is often used in marketing. Different colors have different meanings associated with them, and it's a good idea to choose a color that matches your type of business. Just look around and you'll see evidence of this marketing strategy. Fast food restaurants are usually red and orange. Banks and financial institutions are often blue, while luxury products are typically packaged in black. On the web, colors are determined by using a hexadecimal value. For example, the color red is defined as hashtag FF000 in hexadecimal. It's important to understand and use your website's colors in their hexadecimal value, as you'll need it to get the exact color down every time. When you determine your website's colors, write down each of the color's hexadecimal value on a notepad so that you can always reference them later. These colors are important and now a part of your business branding. After you determine your website colors, you can start swapping them into your template. Some website builders, like Wix, allow you to add and save your colors within the editor to make using them later easier. Note, if you're having difficulty choosing a good color scheme, there are several great tools you can find online, including this color wheel from Adobe. The next modification for your template is typography. Typography and the font faces you choose have an impact on multiple aspects of your website, including readability, mood, perceived article length, user experience, and more. Just like with color, there is a psychology to it that can give your viewer an impression about your message before they even begin to actually read it. Spend time looking at the different fonts your website builder provides. Remember, you want to choose a style that best expresses all the multiple aspects typography conveys. In general, it's best to only use 2 or 3 different font types throughout your entire website. For example, you could use one font for your headings and another font for your body text. And if needed, you could use a third font, perhaps for the navigation menu or for content that needs to stand out from the others. Be sure to choose fonts that go well together. Once you've chosen your new font faces, you'll want to check out the font size. Font size is typically measured in pixels for most website builders. Make sure your font size is legible for your readers, especially for the body text. Most body text on a web page is usually about 16 pixels in size. Headings are typically larger, and of course, they vary depending upon your website's design and the font face you choose. It is okay to use multiple sizes for different headings. For example, an H1 heading can be 36 pixels in size, while an H2 heading might only be 30 pixels in size, and an H3 might even be 24 pixels. In general, just remember to use fonts on your website that match the mood and style of your business, that look good together, and are sized appropriately so that your text is legible. The last modification for any template is changing the default images. Fortunately, images are very easily swappable in website builders, and you should do so. Although it may be tempting to use the stock images that come with your website template, it's better to swap them out with your own custom ones. Especially for local small business owners, you should almost always use images of your own real business. For example, Sarah shouldn't use stock images of a bakery shop. She should use real images of her own bakery shop. And most definitely, she'd want to use real images of the goodies she bakes every day, not just a stock image of a generic product. Note, I want to mention that stock images are not always a bad choice. Most website builders like Wix offer a variety of free and paid stock images that you can use on your website. These images are professionally shot and usually look really good. Using stock images really depends on the type of business you have and how you use them. That being said, more often than not, using your own real images are usually the best choice for a small business. If you don't have a good camera or are not very skilled in photography, just have a friend do this or hire a local professional photographer. Using relevant, good quality images that are your own are well worth the extra costs and time. Another common issue, regardless of whether you're using stock images or your own, is editing the image so that it perfectly blends in with the design of your website. And by editing, I mean more than just cropping, resizing, or enhancing the color of an image. A well-designed website will use images with advanced image editing techniques. As you can see in the examples below, this really gives your website a professional touch. Now, unfortunately, many small business owners won't have access or the knowledge to use Adobe Photoshop, which is the industry standard tool that many professional web designers use to design websites. So you will be at a bit of a disadvantage here. Most website builders do have their own tools for basic image editing, such as cropping and resizing. However, it's typically very basic. For more advanced image editing functionality, there are some free image editors on the web that you can use if you'd really like to get creative. You can check out our resource guide on creating website visuals for non-designers to learn more. So at this point, you're already well on your way to having a good-looking website. I've already talked about modifying your template's color, typography, and images. By applying these modifications, your website should now be able to match your business's branding and utilize a unique custom design. However, there's just one more important aspect that relates to the design of your website that I want to talk about, and that's designing for mobile users. In this modern day and age, many of your website visitors will most likely be viewing your site on mobile devices, such as tablets and smartphones. These devices have much smaller screen sizes than a desktop computer, and thus the website will need to respond or adapt to a smaller screen size to look good on it. This is technically called responsive web design. You may have heard this term before, as it's a popular topic. It is important to make sure your website will be viewable and accessible to mobile devices. Most website builders will either offer responsive or adaptive templates that are suitable for both desktop and mobile viewers. Note that responsive design templates are ideal, and hopefully soon every website builder will start to offer these. In our case, Wix currently offers adaptive templates. We can switch editor view modes between designing for the desktop and designing for the mobile. In the mobile view, you can make adjustments and hide less important elements to make your site look good on mobile screens. You should preview your site on both modes to make sure everything looks great. Note: the desktop and mobile versions of your website represent different viewing modes of the same website. They are not separate websites. Therefore, it's best to design, build, and edit your entire website in the desktop view, and then when finished, switch to the mobile view and make the proper adjustments. One last thing I want to talk about, and something that you should continually keep in mind for your website, is search engine optimization, or SEO for short. SEO is the process of affecting the visibility of a website or web page in a search engine's unpaid results. In other words, it basically means trying to get your website to rank well on search engines like Google and Bing so that people can find you when searching. As you can imagine, ranking well on search engines can be very beneficial for small business owners. It can drive free traffic to your website, including many leads and potential customers. So it is very important to properly optimize your website for search engines. For Sarah, having new customers find and discover her bakery website on Google or Bing would be a huge advantage for her business. There's a lot of work that goes into performing SEO on a website, and I literally could create a whole video series on this topic alone. So in the short time that we have, I'm going to give you a crash course in SEO so that you can at least learn the basics. There are two main components when performing SEO, which is on-site and off-site. Just like it sounds, on-site refers to performing SEO work on your physical website, whereas the off-site refers to performing SEO work outside of your website. To help clarify this, some examples of on-site SEO work would include things like adding or optimizing title tags, meta descriptions, headings, image alt attributes, renaming URLs, and more. Examples of off-site SEO work would include things like link building, monitoring backlinks, competitor analysis, social media, and more. Since off-site practices are outside the scope of this guide, I'm going to cover the on-site practices, which are important to apply when making your website. There are many technical aspects when performing on-site SEO work. Fortunately, most of these can all be easily accomplished with any good website builder. In our case, Wix even has an SEO wizard tool that will automatically show you what steps you can further take to optimize your website. Let's take a look at a typical web page. Here's an example of a web page with an article that's about freezing cookie dough. It's a blog post that Sarah wrote and is sharing with her followers. If she wants people to find her page on search engines, she'll need to perform some SEO on-site work to make the page more search engine friendly. Basically, that means that she needs to make a few technical changes on the page to help search engines better understand what her page is about. First, she'll need to add a title tag to the page. A title tag is an HTML tag that is placed inside your page's HTML code and will not be visibly seen on your page. It is very important for SEO, and every page on your website should contain one. Its purpose is to describe the contents of the page in a short, concise description. And search engines, like Google, use this title tag for ranking purposes. They read the title tag description and then use it to help understand what your page is about. Search engines also normally display the title tag description as the link within their search engine results page. Furthermore, title tags are commonly used by more than just search engines. For example, when you visit a web page, your browser will display the title tag description on the menu bar and within the tab as well. If you bookmark the page, you'll see it again as the default name. Most social media platforms and other external sites will also use the title tag description as the default name when sharing. For this reason, title tag descriptions should be carefully constructed for both search engines and humans. Your description should be 60 characters or less and contain important keywords relevant to the content of the web page they describe. Another important on-site optimization is adding a meta description to your page. Just like the title tag, the meta description is invisible on the page and gets placed behind the scenes in the page's HTML code. The meta description is an HTML attribute that provides a more detailed description of the web page than the title tag. It is commonly used on search engine result pages to display preview snippets for a given page. Because search engines list the meta description in this manner, it's important to once again carefully construct your meta description for getting users to click on your page in the search results. These short descriptions are your biggest opportunity to advertise content to searchers and to let them know exactly whether or not the given page contains the information they're looking for. Meta descriptions should be 160 characters or less in length and contain keywords relevant to the content of the web page they describe. Any website builder should allow you to easily add a title tag and meta description to each web page. In Wix, you can easily add them by going to Pages, clicking the More button, and then going to Page SEO. As you can see here, there's a title, description, and keywords field. Note: when adding your page's title tag and meta description, you may notice that your website builder has a third option for meta keywords. Meta keywords aren't as important as they used to be, and today they have no positive ranking influence on search engines like Google and Bing. You can still add your relevant keywords if you wish, but since all major search engines ignore this, I would recommend leaving it blank. Another important on-site optimization is appropriately naming your page URL. A lot of SEO work is simply about good naming conventions and accurately identifying what the content is about. The same principle goes to naming your page's URL. Before you finish making your website, it's a good idea to name your page's URLs in a short descriptive manner. For example, Sarah could name the page about freezing cookie dough with something like how to freeze cookie dough. Notice how the page URL is short and descriptive while containing keywords as well. Also note how every word is separated by a hyphen to help make the page URL more readable by humans. In general, it is common practice to take your page's title tag, or a shorter version of it, and use that as a guideline to name your page's URL. Another important on-site optimization is appropriately using keywords within your headings. As I discussed earlier, headings are used to structure content, and both humans and search engines use them to help better understand what your content is about. In terms of SEO, use important keywords within your headings while also being careful to make sure your headings sound normal for humans as well. Another important on-site optimization is telling search engines what your images are about. Since search engines currently can't understand what the image on your page is about, you'll need to tell them by using what is called an alt attribute. The alt attribute is basically a small piece of HTML code that specifies an alternative text for an image. which will only show if the image cannot be displayed or if your viewer is using a screen reader. Website builders make it really easy to add an alt tag to any image. With Wix, I simply click on the image and then click the Settings button. If I scroll down, you can see that I can easily add my image alt text in this spot right here. Search engines use this text to understand what the image is about. Therefore, your alt text should be a short descriptive sentence explaining what the image is about. Be sure to use keywords for SEO, but like with any description for search engines, don't go overboard by using too many, and always make it sound natural for humans. One last optimization that I'd like to mention is ironically about hiding pages from search engines. There may be certain pages, such as your privacy policy and disclaimer page, that you would actually want to hide from search engines. I'm going to discuss more about these pages later on in the next video, but typically these types of pages have the same text that's been copied and used among countless other websites on the web. In the world of SEO, this is called duplicate content. Using duplicate content of any kind is a very bad practice for SEO, and search engines don't like it. Therefore, if you must use duplicate content on a page, you would want to hide that page from search engines by simply telling them not to index it. Most website builders will either call this hiding or no indexing. Note: duplicate content is something that you always want to avoid. Some website builders use templates with pre-existing content that might already fit your website very well, and it may be very tempting to keep it. But remember that there could be thousands of websites out there already using that exact same content. Therefore, I would highly recommend removing all the content that comes with your template and replacing it with your own original content. I want to discuss e-commerce for your website, as this is an important and beneficial topic for many small business owners and entrepreneurs looking to sell something online. Getting back to our fictional example with Sarah and her bakery business, Sarah would like for her customers to be able to shop and order some of her bakery goods directly online from her website. After they placed the order online, she would receive a notification of this and then ship the order out to them via her preferred shipping method. In order to do this, Sarah will need to add an e-commerce store to her website. Fortunately, most website builders support e-commerce and make it relatively easy to sell goods or services online. You would add an e-commerce store to your website using a platform that your website builder provides. Each website builder is different and may use a different platform. In our case, Wix provides their own custom platform, which I think works quite well. Note: the platform your website builder uses is important as it affects the functionality and features your e-commerce store has and is limited to. Adding an e-commerce store is typically straightforward with most website builders. In Wix, we'd simply go to Add, Store, and then we would need to set up a few things like adding products, coupons, connecting your preferred payment method, configuring shipping and tax, and so on. This may seem complicated, but it's really pretty much self-explanatory. Of course, this process will differ depending upon the website builder you are using. Once again, I'm going to ask you to pause this video and refer to your website builder's documentation on adding your e-commerce store. This will help you understand how to add an e-commerce store using your own website builder's specific platform. Note: most website builders will require that you purchase an e-commerce plan in order to unlock and use an e-commerce store on your website. As I mentioned earlier in step 2, make sure you've purchased an e-commerce compatible plan. I also want to point out that you can use PayPal for free on most website builders, which is a simpler method for selling online. Keep in mind, though, that PayPal is very limited and does not have all the advanced features you would find in an e-commerce store. Using the PayPal option only works well for selling a few simple items. If you're deciding between a complete e-commerce store or PayPal, this really depends on the business you have and what kind of features you'll need when selling. Typically, if you plan on selling a large number of products or require advanced e-commerce functionality, then upgrading to the e-commerce plan is a better choice. At this point, you should by now have read your website builder's documentation on e-commerce and have a good understanding of how to physically add an e-commerce store to your website. Since the technical aspect of doing this is fairly straightforward and is covered in your website builder's documentation, I want to focus on e-commerce best practices for displaying your default store pages. So let's get started. I just added an e-commerce store to Sarah's website within the Wix editor. As you can see here, I am in preview mode viewing the e-commerce store, which is listing example products that Wix has automatically added to the store. Most website builders will auto-populate your store with example products that you can either delete or swap out within your editor. Let's take a look at one. This example page serves as a placeholder with helpful dummy text and images to help you visualize the basic layout of the page. Naturally, Sarah will need to replace this content with her own. This page is called the product page, and your platform uses this as a template to display each individual product that you have within your e-commerce store. For example, if I go back and then click on another product, you'll see that we're now viewing a different product, yet the page itself looks the same. The product page is perhaps the most important page on the e-commerce store, as typically this is where your viewer will decide to either purchase your product or not. The first step to a good product page is crafting a well-written product title and description. Both the product title and description must provide accurate and descriptive information about the product. Remember, your customers cannot touch or feel the product, so it is your responsibility to describe it to them. Furthermore, keep search engine optimization in mind by adding your targeted keywords within both your title and description. Feel free to include headings and bullet points within the product description as well. Also, avoid using duplicate titles and descriptions and never copy or paste the generic manufacturer's information, which is already being used all over the internet. Remember, you want to avoid duplicate content. And lastly, don't be afraid to craft a product description with 1,000 words or more if the product warrants it. The next step to a good product page is to use quality images and/or videos to showcase your product. Any image or video should be of the highest quality possible. Hiring a professional photographer or investing in a good camera and some great lighting is money well spent. For small products, consider purchasing a professional photography box. It will really make your product stand out. The images you use are a reflection of your product, and they will greatly affect your viewer's buying decision. Also, use multiple images with different angles so that the viewer can get an accurate, all-around look at the product. Lastly, don't forget about your image's alt attribute. Add an alt description to each page for SEO. Another step to a good product page is adding social media share buttons. This will encourage your customers to share the product with others to increase your product's visibility. Another step to a good product page is adding customer reviews about the product. Note that unfortunately not all website builders may support this feature, but if yours does, this is something that you should definitely consider adding. Listing real customer reviews about your product will not only drive more sales, but will help customers better understand if the product in question is right for them. Customer reviews are proven sales drivers and something the majority of consumers will want to see before deciding to make a purchase. Now that you have a good product page in place, let's go back to the store page we saw earlier and talk about categorizing products. All e-commerce platforms will allow you to apply your products to a category so that you can organize your products in a more efficient manner. For example, say Sarah added several dozen products to her e-commerce store. She would want to better organize her products by grouping similar ones into categories, such as adding her Strawberry Bliss shortcake and Raspberry Delight chocolate cake to a category named something like cakes, while adding her 24-karat cupcake to a category named something like cupcakes. This is just good practice and will keep your store in better order. Note, in Wix, they call this collections instead of categories. As you can see here, I've restructured Sarah's store page by using categories. This is much better than the original default layout. Now that we have the store page properly categorized and a good product page in place, the next pages within your store are typically for the shopping cart and for the purchase confirmation or thank you page, as Wix calls it. These pages typically are ready to go, so there's not too much work to do here, but it's still a good idea to check them. With Wix, we have very limited customization on these particular pages, such as changing the basic font, font size, and font color. Just like with the product page, be sure to apply the style that best matches. The same styling should be consistent throughout your entire e-commerce store. Last but not least, you'll need to add your policy pages. These are your business's return policy, a terms and conditions policy, and the privacy policy, which is required by law in the US. Any e-commerce platform should provide an option for you to easily add this information. In Wix, you can go to My Store, Manage Your Store, Store Settings, and scroll down until you see Policies. Then you can simply copy and paste your policies into their appropriate spots. If I click Preview Checkout Page, you can see that Wix will add these to the bottom of your store's checkout page. It's also good practice to add these links to the bottom of every page within your footer so that your viewers can easily find your policies. Furthermore, you'll most likely want to hide these policy pages from search engines, as these types of pages are irrelevant and often contain duplicate content, which, remember, is bad for SEO. Note: if you don't have any existing policies, you'll need to create them. There are a variety of free policy generators online that you can use to help serve as a basic template for your business. I would recommend checking these out and consulting with your lawyer as well to make sure your policies adhere to any laws and regulations. As I briefly mentioned earlier in Step 2, your website will not be visible to the public until you publish it. Publishing your website is really easy. Simply log into your website editor and click Publish. It's that easy. Your website will now be live and ready for your customers to view. Note: remember to assign the professional domain name you chose in Step 2 to your website to give it a professional URL address. Be sure to test your website by logging out of your website builder and visiting it via your new domain name address. Browse through every page and make sure everything looks good. At this point, you now officially have a website. Congratulations! However, before I end this video series, I want to conclude it by discussing what you can do next and how to successfully manage your website now that it's built. Managing and maintaining your website is where the real work comes in. Unfortunately, you can't just build a website and leave it alone, expecting it to help your business grow. You need to continually work on it. Think of your website as an investment that requires your continual care and attention before it can yield any return. This means continually keeping your website up to date, like adding new content, updating existing content, and removing old content so that all information on your website is accurate for your viewers. You need to test it and tweak it and continually optimize it for better conversion rates. Furthermore, you'll need to market your website and actively review website traffic and behavior, along with a variety of other tasks. Now, some of these do depend on how much time and money you have available, but in general, the more tasks you accomplish, the more you keep your website competitive and successful. So, at the very least, here are some further tasks to complete, along with some additional things that you may want to consider. First and foremost, you should get a professional email address set up. Now that you have a website, using a professional email address with your domain is a must for any business. Never respond to your customers via their free email service. Always use a professional email address with your website domain. An example of this would be something like support@mydomainname.com or info@mydomainname.com. It is okay to create different email addresses for different purposes or departments within your business. For example, Sarah could use orders@sarahsbakery.com to send an order confirmation email to her customers, yet display an info@sarahsbakery.com email address on her website for general inquiries. To get started on this task, refer to your website builder's documentation on how to create email addresses. Next, you may want to consider adding a blog to your website. A blog can be beneficial for your business in numerous ways, such as attracting leads, writing about your expertise and sharing it, creating a conversation for your customers, and many more. To get started on this task, once again refer to your website builder's documentation on how to add a blog. In Wix, you can easily accomplish this by logging into your website builder's editor and then click Add Blog to get started. Next, you may want to add Google Analytics to your website so that you can start collecting analytical data about your website and its traffic. Even if you don't plan on using this data anytime soon, it's still a good idea to start collecting it so that you have it for when you do. Google Analytics is a free service from Google that lets you measure sales and conversions, along with useful insights on how your visitors use your website, how they arrived on your website, and how you can keep them coming back. Ultimately, this data can be very beneficial in understanding your viewers' behaviors and can help you determine what works and what doesn't for your website. Next, you should consider claiming a Google My Business account. This depends on the type of business you have, but for small business owners that do business locally with a physical address, such as Sarah and her bakery shop, this is an important task. Your goal should be to rank well on Google's local search, and claiming a Google My Business account is the first step to accomplishing that goal. If you perform a search for any local business service on Google, you'll see that there's 3 top-rated businesses displayed at the very top of the page. This section is called the 3-pack, and it's understandably the coveted position for any local business owner. Ranking well on Google takes time, which is why you should get started with a Google My Business account as soon as you can. This is a great way to claim your business location and brand in Google search. Another task to consider is setting up and using social media. Virtually every major business now uses social media to communicate with customers. In fact, it's become such a popular customer communication tool that many customers expect it from a business, large or small. You can manage support queries, product and service questions, and share content related to your industry. You don't need to be present on every social media network, but you should be present on the ones that make sense. Next, you should consider collecting online reviews to showcase on your website, and, if possible, acquire a positive rating from the Better Business Bureau. Surveys show that 88% of consumers read online reviews to determine the quality of a local business. When you also factor in the popularity of online directories like Yelp, you'll quickly realize how important it is to start collecting online reviews and increase positive feedback for your business. Next to consider is paid marketing for your website. Any new website exists in a virtual void until you actually start marketing it. Even if you have a small budget, paid marketing can instantly drive new visitors and potential customers to your website. There are a number of marketing services available for you to consider as well. I already discussed the importance of social media, and you can use paid social media marketing as one method to market your website. Another popular method that works well for many small businesses is pay-per-click ads. Popular pay-per-click advertising includes Google AdWords and Bing ads. Pay-per-click can be very effective, but also very expensive if not properly utilized. Define your budget and manage your ads appropriately for a good return on your investment. Next to consider is SEO. Done properly, SEO can greatly help your business grow on the web. However, hiring a professional SEO company is an important decision that shouldn't be taken lightly. Do your research and take careful consideration in your hiring approach. SEO can also be very expensive, so make sure you have a budget set aside. As you can see, there's a lot more work ahead now that your new website has been built. Managing and maintaining your website will require hard work and dedication in order for it to succeed. I would highly recommend setting aside a budget for marketing, search engine optimization, and other paid tasks as well. However, if you cannot afford this just yet, that's still okay. At this point, you can focus on the free tasks I mentioned earlier and work on keeping your website continually up to date for your readers. Remember, your website is ultimately all about providing them with accurate information in an efficient manner. Ultimately, the success of your website relies upon you. Keep your website up to date and in step with the latest website best practices. And then, eventually when you can, start testing some paid marketing strategies. You've reached the end of this video series, and I want to thank you for watching. By now, you should have a solid understanding of how you can make your own website. I hope that you found this video series as fun as it was for me to teach it. Keep in touch, and good luck with your new website.